Want to welcome everybody to Iowa Postgame here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, and want to thank our sponsor for today's show. We've got a couple of sponsors to thank along the way this evening. First of all, Iowa Smokehouse, and you probably enjoyed, if you had the right thing in mind for game day snacking, you enjoyed some of their beef sticks, maybe their beef jerky, perhaps it's their steak bites. They've got awesome products, folks, and even if it's late night like this evening, it'll go well with a beer, maybe your favorite spirit, whatever the case may be. Check it out at iowasmokehouse.com and use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your total order, courtesy of this show from the Hawkeye of the Storm and our partner, Iowa Smokehouse. Plus, want to thank Brad Van Meter and his team down at State Farm. Give him a call, 515-256-6480 for a quote on insurance. Visit him online at bradvanmeter.com. Brad Van Meter at State Farm in Des Moines. So, the Iowa Hawkeyes fall on the road in Omaha. Man, I got a lot of thoughts on this game, folks. We've got about 65 people. It is a late night edition. And as you can see, I probably look a little bit haggard. It's been a bit of a long day, long travel over to Omaha for this game. And I guess I should say, first of all, it was worth it. I love downtown Omaha, and I'm an Iowa guy. But there are some towns across the state of Iowa and across the Midwest that I could care less about visiting. And some people may say, who cares about Omaha? Downtown Omaha is really cool. Kind of has that retro look or vintage feel, and lots of great eateries. Man, we were able to, and I know this is going to bore some people, so just hang tight with me, be patient. We were able to hang out around like a 3 square mile radius, and do everything we needed to do. Hit our restaurant that we went to. We went to an ice cream shop before the game. Got to the game way early. Got great parking for the game. Got a hotel close to the game. Like, everything worked out really smoothly in that regard. And overall, man, if you're Iowa, you got to be happy. I know this is there are no moral victories in sports. I get that. But if you're Iowa and you're Fran McCaffrey, I guarantee you, folks, Fran is walking away from tonight feeling pretty good. Is there room to improve? Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're going to go over that. We're going to talk about it. We do not have Coach Gary Close on tonight because Coach is traveling. And so we expect to get Coach back ASAP for his season debut. But in the meantime, I'm here, and we'll be taking your calls throughout the evening, which reminds me I need to throw up the StreamYard link for people to call in. If you want to call in, I'll throw it up here in the live chat. Man, where do we start after this game? I mean, we could start certainly with the officiating. That might be a start, right? Officiating is always a decent place to start, especially when you have a game like this one with Courtney Green. Let me just see here. I'm going to make sure we have everything in place. Yeah, I mean, man, Fran McCaffrey about lost his mind in that second half, and it's not like we've never seen Fran McCaffrey get angry. And I know some Creighton fans. I want to address the Creighton fan base in a second as well, because very passionate fans. But wow, I've been to a number of road venues. But talk about a fan base, and I can't represent the whole fan base. I'm not trying to stereotype everybody. The people around us, it's almost like they did not know how to behave as a number 8 team in the country, as a top 10 team. I mean, it was weird. I try to be fairly objective as it relates to evaluating opposing fan base. I love going on the road. I think it's a great aspect of being able to be a fan or cover a sport, whatever you do in association with the college athletics team. I think it's just an awesome experience. And I have my reviews after visiting CHI. Really good arena. It was packed, 17,000 plus there this evening. And boy, they were raucous. I'll give them credit for that. Extremely passionate fan base. You can tell, very involved in the game. I wish Carver could be somewhat close to what we saw this evening at CHI, but that's a discussion for another day. They've got a beautiful arena right across the street from Charles Schwab Field, where they, of course, have the Big Ten baseball tournament, the College World Series, etc. So, anyways, I digress. Iowa falling 92-84 to the Creighton Blue Jays. Let me just say this first. At halftime, it was 43-43. Both teams shot very well from the field. But I thought Iowa's defense held in that first half. This is a really high score. This is a high firepower Creighton Blue Jays team. A lot of shooters. Obviously, they got size inside with Kalkbrenner. If you missed the preview I did with BlueJayBanter.com's own Tim Kruger, we talked a little bit about all the weapons they've brought in, some of which being transfers. But at halftime, it was 43-43. Iowa was shooting 49% from the field, Creighton 43%. The difference was Creighton made a couple more threes than Iowa and a couple more free throws, so it was tied. Rebounding was very even. Iowa actually out-rebounded the Blue Jays in the first half, 19-18. Beat them in assists, 9-6. Beat them in steals, 4-2. Beat them in turnovers, 6-7. Beat them in blocks, 4-2. And held the largest lead in that first half at 7. Could not push it beyond 7. You got to be able to do that in a game like this, and it's hard, really hard. But let's just say this, very good first half. 43-43, really good first half. Was it perfect? No, it wasn't perfect. Defensively, it wasn't perfect. Of course not. But they held them to 43%. These teams like to get up and down. That's not a terrible number. Second half defense was a little bit of a different story. We'll talk about it. I just got the official box score from Iowa. I'm going to pull this up. And as I do, let's go to our first caller, our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Ryan is with us. Ryan, welcome.
Hey, Cory. Sorry. I was actually watching the live feed, not the StreamYard feed. Sorry about that.
Yeah, good.
Michael. Hey. Bar's still open, but barely.
How long until I get a side-handed comment about Courtney Green this evening?
No. Why would I do that?
Well, I think I'm guessing Fran held his tongue post-game, but I can tell you I'm tired of seeing Courtney Green assigned to road games. Well, any game, frankly, especially a Big Ten, Big East game. You could, if you're going to get a Big Ten crew, let's get somebody like who's the big DJ Carstensen.
Carstensen, yes.
Yeah,
Or even Kelly Pfeiffer, who at least showed some.
I think Pfeiffer's okay.
He showed some. Yeah, it's pretty clear. Crooked Courtney's got an agenda, and why he still gets Iowa games is just beyond.
Well, they're not gonna. I don't think you can just say he never gets Iowa games. He's been
a lot of them.
He's been responsible for a number of problems, not just with Iowa games, but with other Big Ten games. That's the issue. Is he's kind of got a reputation across the conference, not just with the Hawks. But Fran does not like him. I know Jordan Bohannon was tweeting about him this evening. Jordan clearly does not like him. I don't think the Iowa players like him. If you don't want it to be a distraction, I don't know that it was, but boy, there was some moments tonight.
Well, the thing is, you got to be kind of careful about some of that too. It's one thing for a jabroni like me to spout off about Crooked Courtney, the man with no integrity whatsoever, nor accountability. But if he's watching Twitter, he obviously knows that somebody, especially like a Bohannon, who's a high-profile former Hawkeye, mouthing off about him, it isn't going to help us either. I will never forgive that man for calling a foul with a second to go, 35 feet from the basket, handing Rutgers that win on Keegan Murray of all guys. We're not exactly talking about Draymond Green here. If you saw that crap tonight, I don't know if you heard about it.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, he got ejected, second time in 3 days, this time for throwing a chokehold on Rudy Gobert. It was a mess. The guy's a complete punk. But anyway, I digress.
Well, Rudy Gobert I don't have a great opinion of Rudy Gobert. Anymore.
I don't either. But Draymond was in the wrong on this one. I think you would agree. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, Crooked Courtney, you kind of knew you didn't have much chance when that happened. That being said, talking about some of the positives, Dembele looks like he really could be a good player. I really enjoyed watching him. He's got a sweet touch. Hopefully he can get a little more physical because he's got the frame for it. But all in all, I felt good about him. Excuse me. Obviously, Ben Krikke has a beautiful shot, and that's going to pay dividends. On some of the other side, I kind of feel like this is the same team we've always kind of had. You really don't have that alpha dog point guard, kind of like the women do. Okay, that's an extreme example, I admit. But you don't have the alpha dog point guard. Bowen, he's got to figure out how to get some.
What do you mean by alpha dog point guard? Tell me what that means.
The guy, if you watch the NCAA tournament, that 5'8" guy for Kansas State who just lit it up. He table set it. He can score.
But that's one. You're giving me another extreme example.
Well, or think of who is the guy for Indiana? Yogi Ferrell, was it?
Okay, Yogi.
Guys who
again that was 6 years ago.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The guy who is the clear leader of the team, who everything runs through them, and then they table set for others. In the Fran era, our best players are typically the bigger guys, right? Garza, the Murrays. I guess Devin Marble might be one exception, but I want better guard play. Teams that do well in the NCAA tournament, teams that do well, and I'm reading James Hemmer's comment here. Teams that do well in the NCAA tournament have excellent guard play, and they know how to play defense. What Iowa's problem is is we go through some major defensive laps. We will give up a 12-13-0 run over 3 minutes and then work the rest of the game digging out of the hole, and we'll fall a few points short. And I think that's kind of what happened today.
Well, let me just say something real quick, Ryan. You're right about that, and I don't want to return to you with anecdotal evidence because that didn't prove anything. Illinois is an example of a team who, for several years, had really elite guard play between Trent Frazier, Ayo Dosunmu, and they could never win in March, and they didn't play very good defense. Now, I agree with you. I think they need better guard play, but I will say it's early with Brock Harding. He's 3 games into his career. This is his first road game.
But I wanted to ask you about that because he hardly sniffed the court in the first half, and he didn't play enough. I thought he showed. I mean, yeah, I know the competition for the first 2 games, but I thought he showed enough flashes, enough passing ability, and I don't think Bowen blew anyone's doors off. And not that he played bad. He had a solid floor game, but why wasn't Harding more involved in this game? I think he potentially could have been more of a difference maker.
Well,
and
I'll say my response to that, Ryan, and I want to give Fran kudos to a large extent. And I know people are frustrated with the defense. He gave him 92 points. And you know how I feel about defense, right, Ryan? We've went over this. You know how critical I've been of Fran of the defense. But I am not sitting here thinking, woe is the defense, and here we go again. I'm encouraged by what we saw this evening because Fran had the courage and the trust in 5 underclassmen. He's done it every game so far this year, and here we see him go on the road at number 8 Creighton in a packed house, and for a good stretch of the game, he went with 4 freshmen and a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
And for another stretch, he went with 4 freshmen and Peyton Sandford. I don't know of another coach that, besides maybe, a blue blood that's getting 4- and 5-star kids every class, I don't know of another coach that'd be willing to do that ever, let alone on the road against a top 8 team. And I thought those guys showed up. As it relates to guard play, Harding didn't play a lot. I don't know his final. I've got his final minutes up here. So for the game, Brock Harding played just 8 minutes in the game. And you're right about him in the first half. Brock had just
0 for 1 in the first half.
Yeah, and just 2 minutes of play. I don't know why that is. The only thing I could say is, although Fran has lots of trust in his guys, and he played Brock 8 minutes, but Brock was the guy with the least amount of time on the court tonight of the freshman. There is a difference with going on the road when you have the ball in your hand all the time. I think there's maybe a little bit of less pressure on a guy even though they're going up against really good bigs, but guys like Lodgy or guys like Owen Freeman or even Price, they're not having to handle the ball every time down. That'd be my only explanation. I haven't heard Fran's take on the game yet, but all I have to say is he's really young. I think he's got an opportunity. And when you say alpha, I don't think they necessarily need a scoring first point guard. And I don't think that's what you're saying either.
No, it's not. Right.
But they need someone who can be a distributor, who can attack. And I still think DeSante Bowen could be that. Let's remember, this is just his sophomore year. And I'm not willing to throw the towel in on him, and I don't think you are either. And he has shown flashes. I think some of us thought he'd just come right in there and attack and be that guy. So, yeah, defense really wasn't good for that 10-minute stretch in the second half. I mean, it was bad. They gave up 32 points in 9 minutes. That's what lost them the game.
Okay, to maybe help define real quick my alpha comment, to put it in Iowa terms. Last year, I went to the Illinois game, and Tony Perkins took over that game. He was the alpha dog. Everything ran through him. He just took the game over and willed us to win.
But that's not who he is.
Yeah. But I'm saying that type of performer, the guy who can do that more often than not when you have to. There are examples out there. Sure, they're they don't grow on trees. I get that. But they are out there. And that's the kind of the guard who's got the potential of being that. The guy who, when you're in the second round of the NCAA tournament and you're going for that Sweet 16, and you got to have that guy who can put you over the top. More of that is what I'm looking for.
One
Now,
guy that we didn't mention is Peter Jock. You mentioned Devin Marble. Peter Jock would have been an example in 2017. Would I call him an alpha? He wasn't a point guard, but he was a guard that you could go to, and he made some big shots down the stretch.
And that's a fair assumption. Andre Woolridge is probably the best example I can come up with in Hawkeye land, but you probably weren't alive.
Well, I know all about Andre Woolridge, though.
Yeah. I mean, heck, we had him and Ryan Bowen, and we were starting a former walk-on named Daryl Moore, and we finished second in the Big Ten that year with a team on paper that probably should have been middle of the pack. Anyway, do have a question for you.
Okay.
Any examples of what you saw? You mentioned the Creighton fans. What I noticed on television was when Sanford got hurt, they were booing loudly, and when he was going to the locker room, they booed him out of the arena. And I thought, what a bunch of D-bags. Are you upset you don't have a football team or something?
No, they're not upset about that. You want to know why?
Because they're lame?
Well,
they're lame. I mean, Creighton's lame, let's face it. They're good, but they're lame.
And it took me a little bit to figure this out. What's the reason why? Because I'm telling you, I was in that arena, and there's other people that can attest to the same thing. And granted, I'm not stereotyping the entire fan base, but I know some certain people that were around me in my section, and we were fairly close to the court. We had some Iowa fans around us, mostly Creighton fans, but boy, it just seemed like all the Creighton fans that were around us hated Iowa. Hated. Like hatred. Like, I'm like, who the crap cares about Creighton? Like, I don't care.
Exactly.
I don't care. You're at number 8 in the country. Act like you've been there before. I don't care. But like, I was with a friend at the game today, and I would make a comment to him, and I have people behind me every time responding to a comment I'm having in a private conversation. Like, it was this level of delusion, and it took me like 10 minutes to figure out what was going on, and I think I figured it out, although this is still theorizing a bit. Ryan, where is Creighton located?
We're right on the border, Omaha.
Okay, and what state is that in?
Nebraska.
Nothing against the state of Nebraska, but
the lamest state to ever drive through, by the way.
What major football brand lacks a basketball brand in that state?
Well, you mean underachieving football brand that used to be good?
GBR. That's what it is. I think that's what it is. I think
you're right.
Wearing blue today, I almost guarantee you that everybody wearing blue today were Nebraska fans, and that's why they hated Iowa. And when I picked up on it, maybe this is me being dumb, maybe it's because I'm from Iowa, but here's when I picked up on it, Ryan.
Oh, wait. My cousins know Greg McDermott because he's from Cascade, Iowa. He's from Iowa, and it's just funny to me.
Dougie grew up down the road from me, but here's what I'll say. It didn't really sink in for me until these yahoos who were behind me. All right. I think in Nebraska they pronounce it Yahoo. Those yahoos behind me started making comments about, what coordinator are you going to fire this week? And I thought, wait a minute, hold on a second. You were Creighton fans. You don't care about football. And then I'm like, oh, wait. Of course. How stupid of me. So anyway.
As you know, my boss, who's a great guy, is a lifelong Nebraska fan. But he's not delusional. He's actually really realistic. He's the first one to tell you the only reason they won is because Cooper DeJean got hurt 2 minutes into the game. We had to put a TJ Hall, who was unprepared, and a walk-on in, and they picked on him enough for 3 touchdowns.
But you know what I say to that, Ryan?
If Cooper DeJean was in that game, we would be bragging about how many in a row? 8, 9?
But you know what I say to that, Ryan? Injuries are a part of the game.
I agree. But I don't think they should be overly confident on Black Friday.
They are whether they win or they lose. This is how a lot of them are whether they win or they lose. That's the crazy part about it. And there are, by the way, used to have a roommate who was a Nebraska fan. So I'm not anti-Nebraska. I'm just saying there seems to be a larger portion of said fan base that behave in a certain way toward Iowa and toward Iowa State. Because I live in Ames, I understand how Iowa State fans feel about a lot of Nebraska fans too. So, anyways, it was just in the hold on a second, real quick. The Peyton Sandfort thing when he went down hard, you're absolutely right. There was booing, there was stuff about faking injuries all around us, and I know what the other side of this will say. Well, what about 2021 Iowa Penn State football? Remember the Iowa fans booing? Those were totally different circumstances, okay? And I am not saying I would have booed if I would have been in the stadium, but those were different circumstances. You know those are different circumstances. Peyton Sandfort, there's no reason to think he was faking an injury. He literally hit the deck hard. We couldn't see it very well from our seat. It was on our end of the court. But he left, and frankly, they lose this game 92-84, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Peyton Sandfort doesn't play much. And I mean, you're talking about first half of this game, Peyton
he got that 2 fouls, and he had to sit 10 minutes.
He played 6 minutes in the first half, and in the second half, he played 12. He played 18 minutes in the game, and he's supposed to be Iowa's best player. And this is how I look at it. Iowa still went on the road, put up 84, and kept this game competitive until the final 2 minutes. That's a positive. I'll say this, I walked up to Owen Freeman's parents. They were down there. They were actually right behind the Iowa bench. But I went down there after the game, and I talked to Zach, and that's Owen's dad. And I just said, I just want to tell you something. Your son is going to be great. And I know
agree.
you know that. But he came in here against this guy who's, all Big East level 7-footer and did not play scared whatsoever. And you want to know who had the best plus minus in this game? Not that that's a stat I look into or read into all the time. It was Owen Freeman. He was plus 10 in a game they lost by 8. He was plus 10 when Owen Freeman was on the court. He's going to get more minutes as the year goes on, especially if he can knock down open shots.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just really impressed with his lack of regard for, in a good way, lack of regard for his own body. The physicality of the game did not scare him. He was a little bit undersized compared to Kalkbrenner, and he showed up. So I'm impressed by all those things. Your concerns are still valid. Believe me.
I thought you were a little down on Iowa.
I was
because you said something like, I just don't think they're very good. And I thought I was the one somewhat trying to talk you off the ledge. Like, they're probably better than you think. I think today shows that the tournament is definitely a possibility. There, guys like Cricky are going to add a lot. We have some, seniors, and then a lot of young talent that just needs to have their moments. And today, I think, went a long way for that. I came away feeling better about us. Where are we going to finish? I don't know. Probably anywhere from 6th to 9th, but I think the tournament is a possibility, probably a 9 seed somewhere along there. Will this be the year we break the tournament drought? I'm afraid not. Simply, when I tournament drought, I mean Sweet 16 drought. Probably not, because I just, as soon as floors get space, we still give up a lot of uncontested threes. And of course, if Crooked Courtney is doing the game, he's going to bail them out with, your fingernail barely clipped the jersey. And,
Well, Ryan, I do got to let you slide because I got other callers, but I appreciate what you had to say. And I am encouraged by this evening. I did make the comments the other day. I don't think this team is very good. I'm very, very encouraged by tonight. Very encouraged by tonight.
I am too.
Make the second weekend, but I'm very encouraged. Still very early. It's going to be a fun year. Ryan, thank you for the call.
Take care, man. Talk to you soon.
All right. That was a good call. I appreciate Ryan's perspective, and he's absolutely right. And if you can see that little hotel clock in the background, yes, it's 12:15. We still got 150 people on here, so appreciate everybody hanging out late night. Justin with the super chat. How ironic is the difference between Iowa's basketball versus football team's philosophy? Offense-oriented versus defense-oriented, stubbornness on both sides, in my opinion. Thank you for the super chat, Justin. Although I will say you're not breaking any news. We've known this for a while, right? We've known this for a while. Again, the defensive concerns are going to be there, and those are more of a macro look. On a micro look at this program right now, where this team is at right now, I'm encouraged by what we saw this evening. Aaron says, the game was late enough. I have to wait 19 more minutes. I hope there's some sarcasm or some jesting in that comment, Aaron. I'm sorry that I made you wait 19 minutes for a completely free show at midnight after being at the game in Omaha and racing back to a hotel to bring you this show for totally free on your part. I apologize for that. All right, let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. We have got Doug, and then we've got James. Doug, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing, Cory?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
I won money tonight, so I'm happy.
Okay.
The spread was 12.5. So we won that, so that's a good thing.
Say that again. The spread was what?
12.5.
Oh, 12.5. I thought you said 4.5. I'm like, it wasn't 4.5. Okay.
12.5.
I was surprised when I saw the computer spread. You probably saw the preview I did with Tim Kruger. And
yep, sure did.
It was like 22.
Yeah.
The computer spread like 2 days ago. And I'm like, man, that's high. But I could also see it again. Yeah, they definitely covered.
Yeah. People being kind of negative. I was kind of surprised when I looked at it. There was only a couple of people in the live chat when I was, waiting that were kind of being negative. And I was like, losing on the road against the number 8 team in the country. That Alexander's really good.
8.
8. Yeah, 8.
You said 18.
Oh, I meant 8. Yep. The 8. Top 10.
Top 10.
I'll put it this way. Ryan said, we can't make the Sweet 16 or something, or we won't. I don't know about that, but if we saw them as a 2 seed and we were a 7 seed, I'm not worried in the second round. I believe we can beat them.
It's so early to be making any definitive comments. This does not hurt their resume at all, going to Creighton and losing. If anything, I think it helps their resume because the committee, committee's going to be combing through results, but they lost by single digits on the road at a top 8 team.
Yeah, and he played those freshmen a lot. And I was right about Ashworth. I didn't think much of him because we played against him at Utah State 2 years ago, and he had a horrible shooting game. But it was Alexander. That dude is for real. He is
very good.
He might be a first-round NBA player. Both those guys came back. This is something that if you're not optimistic, Ben had a huge game. Owen at times looked really good against that Ryan Cockburn or whatever. He is 2-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year. He will go for a 3rd Defensive Player of the Year in the Big East. Only Alonzo Mourning has done that.
Brenner.
Yeah.
So, and think about, and I understand that the one thing Cricky's able to do is pull you out.
Yep.
And his mid-range jump shot was really effective, but 24 points on 11 of 18 shooting. And then Owen Freeman comes in and, he wasn't a juggernaut, but he goes 4 of 7 with 8 boards. Those are pretty good numbers from your bigs.
Yeah. And Owen went right at him,
If you had told me ahead of time, Doug, that Ben Cricky and Owen Freeman would combine for, 15 of 25 for 32 points, and Kalkbrenner would end up with 13 points and 4 rebounds.
Yeah.
I'd have told you, hey, Iowa's got a chance to win. And frankly, I would have been right because they did have a chance to win. They're down 5 with less than a minute to go. And I don't know if Peyton Sanford, you might have been able to tell on the TV replay. Did he get fouled?
I got fouled.
Yeah, he may have gotten fouled. I know he wanted the foul, and I had yahoos behind me. Just you can't even hear anything because they're spitting all over you, and it's just a mess. But anyways, I thought he may have gotten fouled as well. You don't normally see him. He was kind of off balance, but he
doesn't
shot
airball like that.
Right.
Either he's throwing it from his side or he is hit. So he's either extremely off balance or someone hit him. And I don't know what got him off balance, either the person or himself. But yeah, he doesn't throw up that bad shot. When they were down 80-63, I started losing hope. But
they kept fighting.
Yeah, you take away that 10 minutes, they outplayed them 30 minutes of the game.
And the problem, and let me just say,
take out 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It's not all butterflies and daffodils, because the fact of the matter is that 10-minute stretch was bad. When you give up 32 points in 9 minutes, not getting back in transition, giving up open threes, giving up dribble drives and kicks, that's an efficient offense. And that was the only way they were going to get blown out, is if they went through a long stretch. But they never really went through a drought per se. It was mostly just the defensive end not getting back and giving up either easy threes or easy shots at the rim. Too many layups, too many dunks.
All right. I'm going to piggyback off your comment about Omaha and Creighton fans, and something I've never liked fans doing is, if you're a fan, I'm an Iowa fan. I don't really follow the women's. I don't go on your show, but I watch the games. I'm an Iowa Hawkeye fan. I grew up names. I had people that would be Iowa football fans, but be Iowa State basketball fans, and had people do those same things. And you're 100% right. Every one of those people claims to be a Nebraska football fan, but it's a Creighton basketball fan.
Oh, yeah.
And it gets me so upset, because they get to claim that their program's good in both sports. And that's not fair, because Nebraska basketball has never won a first-round NCAA tournament game.
You know what that would be like? And that would be like if Drake or you and I all of a sudden just, started to be really good. And they have had good years, not to the level of Creighton where you move up to the Big East level, but really good years, and Iowa fans start saying, well, I'm an Iowa football fan, but a UNI basketball fan. Like, that would be so dumb.
Well, I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, because in 2008, I was a Drake fan with Keno and that team with Adam Emmenecker.
But you weren't. But
I hated Licklider. So
yeah, but you still were an Iowa. I mean, like, you were still. Yeah. I'm sure you watched every game during the Licklider era, like I did.
I saw him. I was also in college at the time, but yeah, I don't care to remember the Licklider era. And when I'd much rather watch a game like this than they played a game in Licklider's first year against Michigan State, and they were top 5, top 10. It was like 36 to like 42 or something. Somebody's gonna tell me I'm way wrong, but it was a Tony Freeman game, and it was just horrible to watch. Yet they beat them, and I said, this is not how I want the next 15 years of Iowa basketball to go. But no, I think this very easily can be a tournament team, because I think they'll go at minimum 14-2 at home, and I only think Purdue's
you say at minimum you think they're going to go 14-2 at home?
That'd be 8-2 in the Big Ten. They're not going to lose any of the 6 non-conference games.
Oh, I'm not saying they're going to lose one of the non-conference games, but
I think they'll go 8-2. They don't play Michigan State at home. That gets them four games close to the NCAA. If they're 18-13, because last year they were 19-12 with a loss to Eastern Illinois. Again, all this could change by numbers and Kim Palm and the rankings and different things.
First of all, here's the sad part: they literally don't play anybody in the non-conference at home.
No, that's just all they have to win.
They don't even play a Power 5 major team.
And they don't even do that in Des Moines either. I was very disappointed that neutral site game is Florida A&M. Why is the neutral site game Florida? Because I thought when they said, we don't play in Des Moines with doubleheader with the women, I was like, oh, they don't bring in a team like Creighton or somebody like that. Like,
how cool would it have been if they had brought in? I'm trying to think of even if you went out and brought in like Butler,
yes,
or you brought in like Marquette. I'm trying to think of a more regional school. There would have been options. But scheduling can get complicated.
Not less school, like Wyoming or somebody like that. Something. Well, Nevada would have been awesome just to get Stevie a loss or two. Yeah, it just would have been nice to have a little bit better. I mean, I might be going to San Diego next week, so that's something I'm looking forward to.
Good for you.
How that goes. Yeah. I got plane tickets. So
you got 20 tickets?
No, I got plane tickets. Fly.
Oh,
okay. So we'll see how that goes. There could be some other Thanksgiving things that might pop up, family stuff, but as of now, I'm going. So we'll see. And I'm looking for that.
I wanted to go to La Jolla. That is going to be a great place to go in November, and it's not going to work out for me, but yeah, I'm happy for you.
Well,
are you flying into LA? Are you flying into San Diego?
San Diego. Direct flight from Des Moines to San Diego. So that's nice. Awesome. Yep. I always say, a lot of people knock Allegiant Air, but hey, they get you.
Allegiant's great. Yeah. Allegiant's great if you want a cheap way to fly. Absolutely.
That's why I say I don't know why people knock it. I don't know much better, so it's like people are like, "This is a bus in the sky." I'm like, "Works for me."
Yep, absolutely. Get me there.
Yeah. No, but I think I'm optimistic, and it's not just being a homer. They have a chance, and the Big Ten struggling this today. That was really, really sad to see the other two teams lost in the Big Ten, and that's not good. And Michigan State already has 2 losses. Wisconsin already has 2 losses, and we'll see. I don't know if there's any Big Ten team maybe other than Purdue that might make the Sweet 16. I mean, Illinois looked okay against Marquette. But Illinois didn't look good against Oakland. So, but
real quick, can I just say something because you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about? I made a comment. It was Iowa had cut the lead. What was it? 63. What was the score when Creighton blew it open?
80-63.
It was 80-63.
Yeah.
Okay, but Creighton went up early in that second half, and Iowa climbed back to get it within 6. I think it was after an and one for Patrick, or maybe trying to think. No, I believe it was. No, it wasn't an and one. They actually got it was a dead ball foul. I think got the ball out to Tony. He nailed a 3, and they cut it to 63-57. And I leaned over to my friend and I said, "Hey," I said, "there's going to be a makeup call right here," because the fans were booing for no reason. Fans are booing like crazy. I said, "There's going to be a makeup call."
Mm-hmm.
What happens? One of the biggest makeup calls I've ever seen in my life. The and one against Patrick McCaffrey.
Yes, they. On TV, Brad looked like he's going to lose his mind again.
Oh, I get so sick. I want to ask Gary about makeup. I get so sick of those. I get so tired of them. Either make the call or don't. Make the right call, and if you miss it in the moment, then correct it. Don't go down and change the game on the other side of the court. Stupid. I hate that.
Well, I know you have other callers. I'm optimistic, even if other people in chat aren't. Like I said, next week will be a big week. Hopefully, both me personally and going down there, but hopefully they get. I think USC is pretty good. I don't know much about Oklahoma. I know Seton Hall last year we did beat them, so I hope we get one in San Diego. I have absolutely no fear of Arkansas State on Friday, but and we played Purdue pretty quick, I think, too, and that's played Purdue and Michigan and Iowa State all. Back. So
they get it's literally Purdue and then at Iowa State within a 4-day period. So it's going to be a busy week. That's a big week. A couple opportunities, early resume building wins. I mean, this was a game. I said it toward the end of the game. This was an excellent game for this team. Experience, trial by fire, jumping in the pool head first. But moving forward, at some point, you got to win a couple of games, and it's way too early to start saying, "Well, we got to hurry, we got to be urgent here." They'll win 1 or 2, but they need to capitalize on a couple of those opportunities on the road.
Like I said, they got to protect home court, and they do have to get somebody on the road. I mean, if they do win, 13-3 at home, they still need to beat somebody on the road. Right. And the Big Ten's tough on the road. People just don't realize that. It's just as you saw at Creighton. Some of those calls might go different at Carver Hawkeye, even with our smaller crowds. But we'll see. Like I said, have a good night, get some sleep, safe travels back to Central Iowa.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it, sir. All right. Lansky, how was the ice cream in Omaha? Very good. Very good. Very good. Lots of great options down here. Like I said, I've always loved downtown Omaha. Okay. We've got James waiting on hold. Our number to call in, if you're interested in calling in here the last 10, 15 minutes of the show, it's 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. I will throw up the link if you want to join via StreamYard. I'll throw that up in the live chat right now, I think. All right, we'll go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line, then we'll talk about our player of the game tonight. James, welcome to our show.
How you doing?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm all right. Trying to stay up. I got to work in early in the morning, but I don't want to miss this show since I missed the last one. So
you're a trooper, buddy. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I couldn't make the last one, so I had to try to make this one at least. But The game, I felt like obviously was okay. You know, once you dig yourself in that hole, it's kind of hard to come back. Especially with like the way we play defense, the way we've always played defense, if that makes sense. And like once you get a 17-point deficit, it's kind of hard to come back sometimes. But I feel like you like to see that fight, especially early in the year. You know, like they didn't get down, they didn't roll over. They fought back, then they got down again, they fought back again. Then we can build on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know what fans expect when you're playing the number 8 team in the country on the road with such a young team. Like I say, I have a hard time walking away negative about this evening. And again, you go back and look at every first half stat was like dead even. If anything, Iowa had an edge in the first half. That's impressive. That is impressive. Again, assuming that Peyton Sanford ends up being their best player. They did it with their best player on the bench for much of that first half.
Yeah, and I'm not as much of a. I feel like the refs missed some calls, obviously, but that's not. It's basketball, right? So obviously the refs are gonna miss some calls, but you still have to be as good as you can the rest of the time when the calls aren't. You know what I mean? Like when the calls aren't made to try to overcome that. I understand you're on the road too, and some of those calls were bad. Like it wasn't an and one on the King foul, whatever. You know, the one where they called Patrick for the foul and they said it wasn't, but you have
Terrible.
sometimes that and you try to overcome it. This is how sports works, you know, and unfortunately we couldn't overcome those in that circumstance. But it's not just the ref's fault. And I know some people are gonna say that, but like it's not just the ref's fault. You gotta play the full, 40 minutes of the game. And
Yep. And
I
our
do
RTX Reds player of the game this evening, real quick, James, I just want to interject here. Ben Krikke was really good. And his physicality, he's going to have to continue. He's not the fastest, doesn't have the quickest feet, but he battled. And he picked up a foul on the first possession of the game. And I turned and made the comment. I said, boy, I think it's an Evan Bronze night. I thought they might have to throw Bronze out there to battle inside, and they didn't. And I don't think they needed to. With Owen Freeman and Krikke, those guys held their ground. 24 points for Ben, 11 to 17 from the field, 5 rebounds. He was really good.
one thing I saw, and I don't know if you noticed it, they had a point out where Cricky and Freeman were out there. What's your thoughts on that lineup?
I guess I didn't cognitively notice that, but yeah, I mean, under some circumstances, if you're playing, well, both. I mean, honestly, I think Owen seems to be a little bit more comfortable when he's
In the
dragged
post.
out. And even though Krikke can shoot from outside, I think defensively Owen's feet maybe are a little bit quicker than Ben's. So maybe you can slide Owen out to guard multiple positions. I mean, Lodge's a guy who can guard multiple positions. I know Creighton fans were just completely losing their minds when their All-American crossed over the true freshman.
You also, I mean, it happens in basketball. You get crossed over. Guess what?
It was just like, oh my goodness, I've never seen it. I mean, it was just the most
The
ridiculous.
next time,
What's that?
guess what he did next time on the court?
Say it again.
He said, guess what he did next time down the court?
What?
Hit a three.
Did he? Was it the next time down
Yeah,
the court?
yeah. So you get crossed over, you hit a three.
So weird. It was just so weird. Like I said, my
Come
biggest
back at him.
fans was act like you've been there before.
And the thing I'm saying too is like
Anything about success.
the thing I'm saying too is like you're going crazy. I'm like, bro, you're beating an unranked Iowa team. Like, what are you guys going crazy about? Like,
Dude, you weren't there, bro. I was there. They were going crazy. You were
I
absolutely
know,
right.
but I'm just saying. I'm sitting in my bed. Like, why are y'all going crazy? You're beating an unranked Iowa team. Like, it's not like you're beating like the number 2 team in the nation. Y'all act like you're beating like the number 2 team in the nation. I'm like, it's not that y'all winning a game y'all were predicted to win by 12. Why are y'all going so crazy for?
I don't know. Like I said, other than the fact that they just apparently just don't like Iowa. I know a lot of them were drinking, like a lot of fans at sports events do, but I think it was just a matter of a lot of those fans don't like Iowa, and it is what it is. I have nothing against Creighton. I have a lot of respect for how they play. A lot of respect for Greg McDermott. He obviously spent much of his life in Ames, and yeah, as Charles brings up in the chat, actual Creighton alum, I'm sure. I mean, real Creighton fans that are actually Creighton fans, not just Nebraska fans that don't have a basketball team to root for. I'm sure, you can't stereotype people. And I don't know what the crowd was chanting, Jared. Did you catch that, James? I didn't hear. I was at
No, I didn't even know they were chanting something. I was just wondering, to be honest with you, there's 9 seconds left and we were down 7 and we fouled again. I was like, why even foul at that point? Like, I was like, just let the game go. So I was kind of tuned out at that point. But I just say also with McDermott, like, he spent part of his portion of his coaching career up here too with you and I. So I have respect for him as well too. Just seeing like where he came from. He's an Iowa guy too. Like, and it wasn't McDermott. He always seems to be. I know he's had some stuff in the past. With like last year, especially with all that stuff. So, but it's good to see them win a game like this. And obviously, they got Arkansas State, so they have to get back on the right track before heading out to San Diego. And I think that's just what you got to focus on right now. Is just that. And one thing is like who, like other than Cricky, who impressed you the most? Freeman.
Without looking at the stat sheet, yeah, probably Freeman. I honestly was really impressed with Logi. I know he just had 8 points, only took 4 shots, but he was 2 of 2 from 3. His ability to jump and get his hand on potential shot blocks, I'm really impressed with him. He may end up being the best freshman of this group, maybe not, but he almost like he was the one guy I didn't think was going to play this year, and he's got to play. He's too good not to play right now.
He gives you a lot of that wing depth with a lot of potential to guard, like you said, at least 4 to 5 positions. I don't know if I would trust him guarding point guard, but like anybody else, I feel like he could guard just lateral wise. Like a point guard might be a little bit faster than him getting to the rim, but like, anyways, I feel like he's one of the guys where you kind of have, like you said, you have no choice to play him. But one thing I think they did really well this game, I think that was blocking shots. They were around a lot. I was around a lot of shots and around the rim a lot to try to contest shots. And I think that's something that I didn't think was going to happen. I don't know if you thought that was going to happen either, but I feel like that's something we didn't think was going to happen. That's something that they could build on in the future, especially with Owens blocking. Especially what?
I was going to say 6 block shots for Iowa today.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with the way Owen can block shots and the way Logi can jump. They have guys who can protect that rim when you're not playing Cricky. And I think that's kind of something that is big you need. Patrick, I think, got his hand on 1 or 2 in there as well. So you have that. And obviously, the stretch, I think Purdue, Iowa State, Michigan's going to be tough. I think that's going to be the real test. It's early in the year, I think that will be the real test when you get a little bit later in the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And if those young guys can continue to grow, and I'm sure they will, because they've grown up, I'm sure, a lot during the summer and fall. This is a long season. By the time you hit February or March, maybe those guys are rounding into shape and have a chance to play their way into a tournament setting in March. And that's all you can ask for the young team. And maybe you just never know. This would be, with as crazy as Iowa athletics is and Iowa basketball is, this might be the year where they make the Sweet 16 and we all eat crow. So, by the way, Zach says in our chat, apparently USC just lost to UC Irvine. So, wow.
Yeah, but I'm one of the people too where like I don't take any stock into losing this early. You're like 2 weeks into the season. You're still trying to figure out your team for a lot of teams, and a lot of teams have a lot of transfers that come in or a lot of freshmen that come in sometimes. So you're still trying to get your feet under you. So I don't really take stock as much into losing this early as I do losing later in the year, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because like you just never know what you have with your team at this point in the season. So.
Yep. No, you're right. I agree.
But it'll be interesting to see, and obviously, hopefully Friday they play well, and hopefully we get a Illinois win against Illinois on Saturday. I think that's the biggest. Point so far right now is trying to get that Illinois win. So we can be the Big Ten tournament. Obviously, we care about basketball too, but we want to make the Big Ten championship game as well. So.
Yep. Absolutely, sir.
Yep. All right. Enjoy your night and get some rest because you probably need it. And like you said, hopefully you get travel safely back to Ames.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it, sir.
Yeah.
Chad with the comment. Thank you, Chad. Thank you for all you do. Great show as always. No quitting this team. A lot of good things still happen tonight. Amen. Agree with that, brother. Thank you for the comment, for the compliment, and for being up late with us here this evening. If people missed it throughout football season, we've been talking about RTI Threads. Get with this company soon. They've got a complete apparel line for Iowa football superstar Cooper DeJean. They're expanding their sports as well. They've got a number of athletes they're working with. Head over to their website, rtithreads.com. Again, Cooper's website is cd3lacesup.com. But this Iowa company is working with a lot of Iowa's NIL athletes. cd3lacesup.com, rtithreads.com. Browse their awesome apparel line, merchandise line, and support the show while doing so. Also, I want to take another moment to thank Iowa Smokehouse. We brought them up earlier, but definitely get yourself some Iowa Smokehouse. And yes, you can find these products in your local grocery store, maybe even your convenience store. But you can get a great deal through this code, through this show. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order at iowasmokehouse.com. Also, you can follow them on social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and keep up to date on promotional things that they're running in addition to product releases, etc., at their social media sites. But you can also, again, order online. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off. And if you spend $50 on an order, you'll get free shipping. How about that? So you get a lot of meat and you don't have to pay for shipping. iowasmokehouse.com. Tasting is believing. All right, let's go back to our final couple of callers of the evening.
All right.
Thank you for calling our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Who's on the line?
Hey, Cory, it's Justin. How you doing, man?
Good, Justin. How are you?
I'm good. You're doing the Lord's work, staying up this late, man.
Well, I appreciate that.
it.
I don't know about the Lord's work, but I'm doing my best to serve everybody on here, so appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. I've got 2 quick points on something that you mentioned earlier, and then I have a question. The
Okay.
first 2 is the makeup call thing is ridiculous. That happens in basically football and basketball, and it's extremely frustrating.
It happens
It
most
happens
in
all the time.
it happens the most in basketball, though.
No doubt. It absolutely
Ridiculous.
does. They try to make it basically as even as possible in terms of like the bonus and things like that. So I'm with you on that. And then secondly, I hope the person that said I had to wait 19 minutes was being sarcastic because you were up so late during this. So
Well,
I hope that was sarcasm.
it's okay. I can, even if it wasn't sarcasm, I can deal with that. But I do appreciate that, and yeah, it'll be a long. Well, it's not that long of a trip home, honestly. But I was just happy to be down here. Like I said, I really like Omaha. I actually like the town, and just being able to go on the road and not have to drive that far. It's 2.5 hours from Ames. So these types of trips are what I enjoy, covering Iowa and doing what I do.
That's awesome. And that actually is pretty related to the question I was going to ask. So I live in Austin, Texas now, and Texas played Creighton last year at home, and I went to the game. And I noticed their fan base that you were kind of alluding to earlier with the other caller as being a little arrogant, a little, aggressive, if you will. And it comes out of nowhere. I don't know where it comes from. And I was wondering what other like road environments you've been on where you felt that way about a fan base, because that one shocked me when I went to the Texas Creighton game, just as like a third party neutral fan.
The only other venue that I can tell you I've had those experiences at Minnesota basketball was
Okay.
an experience. I mean, just in the fans, I don't know if they chant "We hate Iowa" or blankety blank Iowa. I don't remember, but that is definitely. I know I had fans in front of me. It's amazing some of these venues, and like Iowa State's great on the road.
Right.
Purdue has been great. When I went to a Purdue basketball game last year, that was great on the road. Like a lot of these road venues are fantastic, but there's a couple of them that just kind of give you weird vibes, and I think those would be the two for me: Madison and Minneapolis. And now having been here, and I've never actually, honestly, I'll be honest. I was in Lincoln last year for Iowa Nebraska basketball, and I didn't have this experience in Lincoln. Now maybe that's because Iowa was ahead in that game for most of it and won the game. That probably has partly to do with it. I think maybe some of the arrogance involved with having a top 8 team and not knowing what to do with yourselves because you're so used to your football team, treading water for the last 3 decades or 2 decades. That might be part of it. But I would say those two. And I know some really nice Nebraska fans, some really nice Minnesota fans, Wisconsin fans, but definitely the experiences of these different places is interesting to kind of evaluate following the game.
Yeah. No, it was crazy. Like I went to the game last year in Austin, and I think at the time they may have been a top 10 team when they played Texas again, and they were very entitled, which is it's passion. So I understand. We're fanatics, we're fans, but it was the way they came across, and it was just shocking to me. So The only other one that I could think of that I've been to where I noticed the home crowd being very much not disrespectful. That sounds like the wrong term, but very much on top of the other team fans is LSU football. They were definitely that way. So
Yeah.
it's just interesting to hear that from the other side. I don't want to like make you have to like belabor the fact, but it's just interesting to hear that.
Yeah. No, it was a fun experience. Like I said, great arena, great town. Overall,
It's huge. It's a huge stadium, by the way, for Creighton. Like
absolutely, it's
20,000.
It's a nice stadium, and the students are the students are nuts. The environment's great.
Yeah.
Nothing but
Yeah.
good things to say about the environment from a home fan perspective. Just maybe not real welcoming to the opposing team, fan base, etc. That's what I would say.
Yeah, no, and I mean, like I said, it's passion based, which is cool, and that's y'all talked about it earlier. They don't have a helmet football program or a football program, if that, so it makes sense. But yeah, no, it's just funny to hear that happen from somebody else, because I experienced that at a home game sitting around a bunch of great fans. But anyways, I do think it was a promising performance, and I think this team has a higher ceiling than we probably thought at the beginning of the season.
I agree.
I do. And I'll let you go, Cory, because I know it's like almost 1:00.
Okay. Thank you for the call, Justin. Appreciate it.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with Justin. Promising, and it's one game, but I went from here as kind of my baseline prior to this game to here, kind of like the football offense this past week. Got to see more, but I'm impressed with these freshmen, their ability to score. They don't get scared. Those freshmen did not look intimidated by the environment, the moment tonight. Fran's got them ready, and he puts trust in them, and I think that's an admirable quality. What's one of the things that makes Fran a good coach? I want to say he's a great coach, that's fine, but what makes him a good college basketball coach is he puts trust in his players and gets his young players ready for the moment. And he had them ready tonight. Jake says, what time of the game was that video you posted of Fran yelling at Courtney Green? Towards the end. I don't know exactly what time. I could check my timestamp on my phone. But yeah, that was toward the end of the game during a timeout. South Bend Hawkeye says, thank you, Cory, for staying up, bringing us a live post game. I'm at the animal hospital with my St. Bernard. This has helped pass the time. I wish you all the best, sir. Sorry to hear you're going through that, and happy to bring you the post-game coverage. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Lomansky, Cory.
Lomansky. How you doing, buddy?
If again,
say it again.
If you can stay up late, so can I.
Well, I appreciate that, sir. Thank you for being here.
I really liked Creighton last year, so I watched a lot of their games and followed them. And tonight, they got probably a first team Big East player as a center, and when he goes and sits down, they bring in a 6'11" guy, and that's hard. That's hard on the opposition. Plus, I think the Hawks got beat. I don't know if it's just inexperience, but they got their own formula thrown back at them. A lot of long passes and breakaways where they didn't get back the second half, and I think Fran will fix that. But I think they got to be patient with the young team. But I am more encouraged this November than I was last year. I'd like your comment on that.
Well, my expectations were different. I mean, I had a little bit higher hope because you had that alpha last year in Chris Murray. But given my expectations level and given what we've seen through 3 games, I could see why you'd say that.
And I think this coaching staff can teach. And you look what they, there's natural talent with the Murrays, that Kenny with their dad. But I think some of the Murray, especially with Chris, maybe not quite as much talent as Keegan, but man, they really coached the Murrays up and so many players throughout the years. Bohannon was, I don't want to say discarded from Wisconsin, but of all the Bohannon brothers, when I first saw him play, I was like, man, they better coach him up because he's just not a real quick basketball player. And look how he turned out. So you need to go to bed. I just wanted to call in, and glad you went to Creighton. I started watching a lot of Nebraska podcasts because they just got venom thrown our way. I think their football team or football people are jealous of the Hawks this year because I think they figured they beat the Hawkeye football team last year. Now they're going to get their revenge, and they watch the success of the football team and can't figure it out. And I think they're just jealous as hell. These podcasts, I try to be nice and I type stuff in, and then they just smart asses. But I think they're jealous.
Well, there's going to be a story told in a week and a half. So let's see what happens in Lincoln that day.
Well, I tell you what, I might be throwing things across the room because I want that one bad.
Well,
I respect our head coach a lot, but I want that Nebraska win really, really bad.
I think Kirk does too, and I think you're going to get it. I think you're going to win that
Boy,
game.
Kirk, he was a little different today, wasn't he? I was kind of like the nerd Kirko is a little more outspoken today.
Well, when you actually have an offense that performs, I think you feel a little bit more comfortable addressing the media. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think he's feeling better, but he's usually not that outspoken about like you say. I think I called into your show and told we're over reffing, or I typed it in the chat. But boy, I was smiling when he said, we're over reffing everything, and I don't know if that's because males are alpha that we get out there and we're smarter than the guys on the field. I'm gonna let you go because it's late, and let's hope for a football win Saturday.
Okay, Lemansky, appreciate the call, sir. Absolutely. Hope for a football win Saturday. Huge game. Massive game, can wrap up the West with the win and lock in a trip to Indy. Again, our RTI Threads player of the game, Ben Krikke, 24 points and 11 of 17 shooting. He had the mid-range game down tonight, 5 rebounds. But as you'll see in our bottom ticker as we're running through this thing, Stanford added 6 rebounds. Perkins added 6. So if everybody's rebounding, they can at least compete in that category. On the night, Creighton really dominated the second half in that category, 38-30 for the game. And in the second half as a whole, that was part of the problem for Iowa tonight, especially during that 10-minute stretch. But for the night in the second half, Creighton out-rebounded Iowa 20-11. That was the difference. And again, in the second half, Creighton put up 49 points. Most of that came, again, 32 points in 9 minutes. Take away that 9-minute stretch, it's a different game, but you can't do that, of course. But Krikke is our RTI Threads player of the game, and I guess we can take this moment to mention, again, RTI Threads, Cooper DeJean's apparel line at cd3lacesup.com, and all of their NIL athletes at rtithreads.com. They're an Iowa company. They're supporting the show, and they carry a bunch of Hawkeyes and a bunch of future NFL stars as well. Visit rtithreads.com and shop Cooper DeJean's cd3lacesup.com apparel right now. And he's even got a "It was not a fair catch" shirt. So check that out. I saw a sign in the audience today at CHI that said it was not a fair catch. So let's keep that going and help Cooper profit off that massacre of a call. Let's go back to our final caller of the night, our RTI Threads, our Iowa Smokehouse. RTI Threads sponsoring our show, Iowa Smokehouse sponsoring our call-in line. We go to David. David, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
Good. How are you, man?
Good. So just a couple things. Real quick. I was disappointed that you didn't think Iowa was that good coming into this game because we had beat every spread. And I think one of the best ways to evaluate opening spread, as Vegas 31.5, that was closing spread, but opening 28.5 against the last game. And the prior game before that, we had won that spread handily. But either way, like I saw a lot of positive things having to buy like Peacock and, Big 10 Plus and all this and that. I saw a lot of positive things. I think we're going to be good this year. I think that we have a different team, far different than last year, far different than in several years, where we have one dynamic player who came in the year prior as a dynamic player. I think that's a good thing. I think it's harder to defend 5 players there versus 1 and then 4 role players behind 1. Now, do I think one player will probably adapt to be that guy? Yeah, maybe. and that'd be cool. Maybe it'll be Perkins, and the guy from Valpo. I don't want to say his name. Kirky, or how do you say it exactly?
Ben Crickey.
Crickey. Ben Crickey. Okay. Yeah, I mean, he was shooting some really tough shots. I mean, shots I really probably wouldn't even want him to shoot. Long twos. Yeah, long twos. Like, take one step back, you're hitting a 3-pointer. But just shooting them and nailing them. So it's hard to fault it, but I don't know.
But they needed him. I mean, he was great tonight with 24 points, and he was able to pull out and
yeah, he was being the man in that moment without question, like just taking the shot and getting it done. But my point is that a lot of people want to keep hating on Iowa and basically calculate Iowa for being the same team they have been in prior years, for whatever reasons those are, without really giving disregard to like what Franz ultimately always said he wanted. He wanted shooters. He wanted tall guys. He wanted adaptability. He wants guys who are 6'10", basically shooters. That's his beautiful team. He wants a fast-paced scenario where he can push it. He doesn't like role models necessarily, but when you get a really good center, you're going to play the really good center. And when he becomes, Garza obviously was great. You're going to push the ball to him. My point is, I think ultimately we're kind of starting to see the team he really kind of wants. And I think it's going to work because they're more athletic. They're going to be capable of defending better. We have better athletes. I mean, our defense in the first half was good. We were jumping the passing lanes. We had, I think, 8 steals to 2 in the first half. That's really impressive. We're already throwing our freshmen in almost as a lineup, which is great. Most teams won't be able to keep up with us. So, like, when you have a bad team, let's say like the team we played prior, the Hornets, I think, right? Or the Stingers. Did you figure that one out? Which one are they?
Yeah, some type of B or Yellow Jacket or something. Yep.
Yellow Jacket. Okay, cool. So, yeah, that team, they could keep up with us for a moment, right? But eventually our team just took over because they didn't have the depth. They couldn't run up and down the court. And when you start seeing short shots at the end of the game, I mean, that's a obvious fatigue issue. My point is that that's kind of his style. Right? So like defense can be two ways, right? You can defend right in front of a guy, or if you make them run up and down the court constantly, cherry picking, making them run up and down the court, that's a defense too. It's hard to run up in court. We probably have, out of the amount of possessions Iowa has versus the average team, is way higher. So the amount of times that the defense has to run up and down the court is way higher. That is going to fatigue a team. Now, against a good team like Creighton, which has depth, doesn't necessarily play out. Maybe that's why we're not as good when it comes to, tournament time, because those teams have depth. I don't know. But I think that we're going to be a lot better than 9th in the Big Ten. Imagine if you're a Michigan State fan right now. I wouldn't want to. Because, I'm ranked, and I just lost to a non-Power 5 conference team and Duke, and I don't think they're ever winning against Duke. We were at least winning in the first half, majority of it, and showed promise with a team in which we had half the team was like freshmen in that first half for a majority of time. Yep. We have a future here is all I'm saying. Yep. Like,
I agree with
I'm
you,
loving
David.
the product.
Yeah, no, it was fun tonight, and I'm more excited after tonight than I was a few days ago. I'll admit that, and hopefully a lot more of these post game shows. And David, I appreciate you calling in, sir, and appreciate your support.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure, go ahead.
I really value what you've done the brand you've built and the tenacity it takes to do that, I think can't be understated.
Appreciate that.
Like you have really, I watched you before maybe a lot of people. I mean, I remember I watched it like 3 years ago or a long time ago. And I only called in a little bit after that fact, like 1 year later, maybe. But you've built this into a like amazing thing. And it takes commitment.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, trust me. I'm very, very thank you, actually. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Yep. Stick around and more to come. Thank you, sir.
Well, your quality is top notch, to be quite frank.
Thank you, David. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you after football. Maybe.
Football's great. I'm excited for next year. Really excited for, like, I hope positive changes. But you know where I stand on that. Same kind of spot you stand for the most part. But have a good night, my good friend. And go Hawks. I mean, just go Hawks.
Yep, absolutely. Go Hawks, sir. Thank you, David. Appreciate that call. And yes, as David mentioned, it's been a long journey trying to get the channel and the platform where it's at. So please help out. You can donate to the channel in the description below. You can hit the like button. That's a small way you can help. And certainly subscribe if you're not already doing so. You can support the channel by means of sponsorship. Email me from theeyeofthestorm@outlook.com. That's from theeyeofthestorm@outlook.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @FromTheHawkeye and From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Facebook. You can share the show out on social media. That's a simple way to support the show. And if you're already doing Amazon shopping, why not do it through our affiliate link, and we'll get a small portion of the proceeds, and it doesn't cost you any more. Shop Amazon with us. Use the link in the description below. And of course, Iowa gets Arkansas State next tonight, falling on the road at number 8 Creighton, 92-84. And Ben Krikke paced the team 24 points his first 20-point game as a Hawkeye. Third straight double-digit performance for Ben Krikke. Good for him. Made 4 of his first 5 field goal attempts, 7 of 9 in the first half, scored 16 points, and had a season high in attempts as well with 18. So he looked like the guy tonight. Third different Hawkeye to reach 20 points this year, complimenting Patrick McCaffrey and Peyton Sandford. So how about that 3 games into the year? Iowa had 4 players finish in double figures, 6 players score at least 8 points. Perkins scored a season-high 16 points, had 6 rebounds, 3 steals as well. Team had at least 4 players in double digits in all 3 contests thus far. In fact, I'll throw up some of the stats here on the bottom ticker to end this thing. And you'll see some of these numbers. Very impressive throughout the lineup this evening. And yes, starters, but boy, those freshmen filled in admirably when they were called upon in a very tough environment. Just 7 turnovers for the Hawkeyes on the road. How about that? That says something. They closed the game on a flurry, making 9 of their final 11 field goals over an 8-minute stretch, trimming a 17-point deficit to 5 points with a minute 26 to play. And remember, Peyton Sandford had a 3, would have cut it to 2. Was he fouled? Was he not fouled? Who knows? It doesn't matter now. Blue Jays had a 19-5 advantage in fast break points, 32-19 advantage in bench points. Most of that came in the second half. Hawkeyes for the Hawkeyes, it's just the 17th loss under Coach McCaffrey when shooting at least 50% from the field. So there you go. Hawkeyes return to the court on, Friday to take on Arkansas State, 7 p.m. Central Time. That's a BTN Plus game, and we'll be here talking about it following the game. It's got to be very quick, Drill MVP. This is our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line, but I'm ready for bed. Drill MVP, what's up?
Well, Cory, I'm wallowing in misery. I'm sure we can wallow in misery together. It's just, it's tough.
Well, I won't be wallowing very, very long until I wallow into bed because it's 1 o'clock in the morning.
I get that, but I think that stretch, I had one eye on this game. I had both my eyes on Kentucky and Kansas mainly, but there was a stretch outside the second half in the beginning, like 4 minutes. You all were even with them, and then it was like, 71-58, something like that? I mean, I think that's where you lost the game. You just can't allow an elite team like Creighton to have that type of run against you and come back from it.
Correct. Well, but they did come back. They were 1 3-pointer away from cutting it to 2. But you're right. That's where they lost the game. I agree.
Well, yeah, and I think Iowa was one of the few teams in the country. I'm not sure how much of Kansas you saw today, Corey. Them, Kansas, and probably Kentucky are the only teams I've seen. And UConn, I got to give them credit. They're looking pretty good. That can come back from that type of deficit. Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to come back from 17 down. The fact you all were even within a 3-quarter of coming from 2 in a hostile road environment, Iowa's got a really good team.
I hope so. I hope you're right. Solid tonight and a fun game here in Omaha. And yeah, hopefully this means we're going to be talking about basketball into March. But long road in front of us. We'll just try to enjoy the journey.
Did you see any of the other Gavitt games that was going on, like Marquette? They beat Illinois, for example.
Yeah, I was heading to the arena. I didn't. I saw that game was going on, but I don't even know who won. Who won that game?
Marquette.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see that, but Marquette's top 10, so probably should have.
Yeah, I think the Big Ten is 2 and 3 right now in the Gavitt games. They won all the games yesterday, and they lost all the games today, if my memory's recalling, which is, I think, about decent. I think the Big East is a pretty good conference, and for the Big Ten to be doing this well is honestly somewhat surprising to me, because after the first week of basketball, I was kind of shaky on them as a whole, but they're starting to win me back over.
Well, Darren P, I appreciate you calling. I'm going to hit the hay, and we'll probably talk to you Thursday or Friday, women and men back on the hardwood.
Have a good night, Corey.
Thank you, sir. All right, folks. Been fun. Been very fun. Thank you all for being here. You can become a premium subscriber by clicking join. There's other ways to support the show. Check out our description. As a reminder, Thursday, it's Iowa, Kansas State women, 7:30 p.m. Central Time on FS1. Postgame here to follow. On Friday, it's Iowa, Arkansas State, the men, 7 p.m. Central Time, BTN Plus. And on Saturday, it's Iowa, Illinois football. Let's get this all straight. Iowa, Illinois football from Kinnick, 2:30 p.m. Central Time, FS1. It's senior day at Kinnick Stadium. Iowa postgame with Coach Don Patterson to follow. Big sigh in and out. This is the busiest time of the year. I enjoy it, but it is tiresome at times. But I'll be here with you throughout the rest of the week from the Hawkeye of the Storm and Iowa postgame. Appreciate all of our sponsors making this possible. Thank you all for being here this evening. Please consider donating. If you appreciated the show this evening, it does help. PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, whatever you're able to do helps. And we will talk to you very, very soon. Have a great night.